The Elmhurst Historical Museum, located in downtown Elmhurst, is proud to present award-winning exhibits for visitors of all ages. Our Adult Tea Time Talk series, family programs, and special events make learning about history interesting and fun. Admission is free, and on-site parking is available. Visit the Elmhurst Historical Museum soon. Call us today, or go to our website for the latest program details.
So, good evening. My name is Kara Caforio, and I am one of your community chairs for the Focus 205. I'd like to welcome you tonight to our very first community engagement session. And I'm impressed that in a very busy week, we have almost filled the room. That's excellent. So thank you for coming. I'd like to start by having the school board members that are present please stand and be recognized. There's some of them. And I would also like to take a moment to introduce our new superintendent of schools, Dr. Dave Moyer. He will be giving a presentation later this evening on next generation learning. But I wanted to just take a moment so you can actually see him and we can give him an official welcome from the community. So. All right, so by now, if you are here, you've seen a flyer, maybe with a picture of someone on it, an email, you've maybe visited the website, but most likely you have a few questions still about what this community engagement thing is. So tonight's session will hopefully tell you how this came to be, how these sessions work, and what will happen with the information. And you will also tonight get an overview from the superintendent about our district. We will end the night with you doing a workshop activity at your table, and then we will share as much of that feedback with the room as possible, and then you will also turn in the feedback forms at the end of the night. All right. You are going to get a lot of information tonight. My co-chair, John Morrissey, and I are going to give you the educate and orientate section of the night. Hang in there, and I think you'll enjoy learning and taking in some new information. So with that, let's get started. I'd like to start with a little background information as to why we're here. This process is a high priority of the Board of Education. In your agenda packet tonight that was on your table, you received a community engagement mission and goals sheet. I believe it's lavender. And that sheet, if you want to take it out and look at it, it's from the Board of Education. And it details why this community engagement process is important and how the information gathered will be used. The school board realized that in order to achieve the school district's mission, that it needed to do two things. First, it needed to create a comprehensive long-range plan for the overall, improving the overall and sustaining the overall performance of the district. Second, it needed the successful development of the implementation of a plan required community input, involvement, and participation. And so the community engagement process is the call to action from the Board of Education. The school board's charge for this community engagement process is detailed in your agenda packet. The highlights are listed. The slide highlights the top priorities of the board, and as you can see, every point of the charge focuses on the importance of community dialogue. Our purpose then tonight and for the next 3 sessions is to fulfill the board's charge through community engagement. Our goal as a community is to listen and to reflect and to discuss our school district. So, enter Focus 205. Focus 205 is the official name of the community-wide effort to gather the input and feedback from the community regarding the priorities for the future of the school district. The logo, Connection, Reflection, and Direction, reflects the goals of the process: to connect as a community, to reflect on the achievements and realities of the school district, and also to direct the future of District 205. It is difficult to imagine a more important goal for our community and for our children. And as many of you know, the school system is one of the most important factors in defining the quality of a community. The strength and success of Focus 205 is dependent on all of our participation in this process. Everyone in our community, every resident, every parent, every patron, every district employee, and every student. Community participation in Focus 205 process occurs in 3 areas: through the work of the community chairs, the facilitating team, and the community engagement sessions. Community chairs and the facilitating team work together to lead the process and coordinate things like this. And then through the district-wide session, the community is involved. I am one of the community chairs. Obviously, I'm Kara. John, you will hear from him in a few minutes. Just a couple things about me, if you didn't read my little bio that came in your mailbox. I have 3 children in the district: a 4th grader, a middle schooler, and a high schooler, who I feel are all getting an excellent education in District 205. My husband received what he would say is an excellent education in District 205 just a few years ago, he says. And I was asked, why was I willing to give my time to this process? My answer to that is this: as part of the community, I want the legacy of excellent education to continue, not just for my students, but for all students. All the students that are currently in District 205, and all the students that will walk through the doors of District 205 in years to come. How does this happen? Through community investment, and I want that investment to come through all of us. And as a former PTA president a few times, it's important, I think, that the community, all the community have a voice, not just a few. So when I look around this room, I see people from all parts of Elmhurst, and I think that is fantastic. So I did not grow up in Elmhurst, but I have grown in the last 11 years to really appreciate that when I ask people, or when people ask me where I live and I tell them, their immediate response is great schools. I think that's a great legacy for us as a community to have and also to maintain for years to come. All right, moving on. Facilitating team. They are, go back. The facilitating team is a group of about 20 people who accepted the responsibility for facilitating the engagement process. They started working last spring at its initial session and have committed to work for the rest of the year up until this coming spring, when there is a report given to the Board of Education and the community on what is found in these sessions. This team has about 20 individuals on it. They help with the process, the strategy, and the implementation. And hopefully, we're all working together to make this as smooth and effective as possible. The team meets regularly to develop agendas and review the material. On the screen, you'll see a list of the facilitating team members. You can go to the website, focus205.org, to see the list and other information as well. And so that you can easily find them tonight, facilitating team members are wearing special name tags. And at this time, I would like them to stand or raise their hand if they're standing to be recognized. So now, enough little background, what's important to you. This session, the community engagement session, this is where the discussion begins about the future from here on out for District 205. And so to discuss how these sessions actually work, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, John Morrissey.
Thank you, Cara. Very good. And thanks for putting up me with working with these slides here. One of the things that I want to say, three things. One, I'm very proud that the ACT score, we just found out yesterday, the average ACT score, and that reflects what the kids have done through K through 11 at this in this district, is 24.2. And that is quite an improvement. It was at 22 about 6 years ago and heading south. And so the schools, the staff, the teachers, the students, they've done everything they could to move that middle of that bell curve up. And I'm very happy about that. And secondly, I was at the open house for the high school last night, and our teachers are first rate. I thought what I heard was excellent, and it's always improved over the years from grade school through middle school through high school is their message, and their message has been translated into much better scores and much more success for the students. And then thirdly, I want to sell my house for more than I paid for it. So I want a good school district to be able to do that, and that's why I'm here mainly. The topics will center around the strategic areas of continuous improvement for the district, followed by informational presentation on each topic. We will work in small groups to arrive at collective decisions and will impact the future of the school district. The initial phase of focus of our Focus 205 community engagement is today. The first step tonight will be the big picture challenges and opportunities facing the District 205 district. Step 2 through plan from January through March 2016. We'll take a close look at the individual schools and see how they measure up to the visioning that has occurred in Step 1. And after completing Step 2, we will prepare to begin looking at developing solutions or the strategic plan for moving forward. Here is the calendar for the workshop sessions for Step 1 of the planning program. Each session will feature a primary topic for the study and feedback. Our final activity tonight will be asking you to give us feedback regarding what questions, issues, and opportunities you want to make sure we address in community engagement sessions 2, 3, and 4. A typical session agenda. Each of our sessions will follow the timed agenda, and this is the format. Each session will start with an informational presentation about the focus of the workshop, followed by a small group work activity, giving you the opportunity to respond to the presentation. It is important to note that these sessions will not be conducive to a format of open forum or debate. They are sessions focus on results and reaching a consensus or collective decisions by the group. So we're very concerned about your time spent here is worthwhile, and you get what you have to be said, and we don't digress. In each session, you will receive a informational PowerPoint presentation. Then following each session, a set of documents will be produced, will later help creating a final report for the Board of Education. These documents will include verbatim responses from each small group, workshop, and executive summary. They will be posted on the Focus 205 website. And all Focus 205 information materials and documents will be posted there, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. You'll be able to correspond that way, and we'll have a newsletter. We have a newsletter as well. I liked it on Facebook. That's about the extent of my technical knowledge. I don't want to know too much about Facebook. A couple other things. We need to mention that your time is valuable, and we want to honor the 2-hour commitment, and each session will end at 9 p.m. Focus 205 representatives will be circulating among the tables and available to respond to your questions. There will be questions or comments that may not be directly related to the topic studied. Please write them out on your in your notes so we can review them later and look at them and record them. Now, before we begin our informational presentation for the session, let me thank you for for being cordial and receiving the number as you came in and sitting at the designated table. Hopefully, you'll have filled out the information on the sign-in sheet provided on each table. Please make sure everyone at the table fills this out. Now for our topic of this session, and we're hearing the presentation regarding the current state of the district. Our new superintendent, Dr. David Moyer, will provide some of the key information about the district. Following the next generation learning presentation, we'll be asking you to work on in your small group to tell us what specifically we need to address and prepare for the information to be covered. Each of the topic areas in our coming sessions. Now, please join me again in welcoming Dr. Moyer.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks to all of you for coming, and thanks to all of you who have helped make my transition to Elmhurst easier. Want to take a check in the back row back there and make sure Mr. Collins is paying attention. You paying attention back there? Okay, just checking. Start with a little bit of a story. First of all, I prefer to move around a little bit, but with the setup here and 2 screens and things like that, it's not as easy to do. So I'm a little confined, I think, to the podium for this tonight, and hopefully you can bear with me for the next several minutes and allow me to maybe set the stage for what comes next. I'd like to start with a story. My oldest child graduated from Indiana University and is currently busy finding himself. He was an excellent musician. Next in line, Brooks is a Syracuse University graduate. He's a dancer in New York. My third son, Cal, was an excellent baseball player. His junior year in high school got wiped out with mono. His senior year in high school, he broke a wrist. His freshman year in college, he injured his elbow, and he finally had to give up his dream. He's a junior at Northern Illinois University right now. Number 4 will probably be a millionaire. Seriously, I'm not kidding. But he creates enormous stress for all of us by his refusal to play the school game. And my youngest is a freshman at York, and she's a very hardworking, diligent, personable kid who will probably mostly get A's and B's, but will certainly not be the valedictorian of her class. So 5 children, 2 artists, 3 athletes, 5 separate sets of dreams, talents, personalities, and at times challenges. So when you hear me use terms like all means all and personalizing instruction, I'm not just basing this on what I would consider some type of professional knowledge or expertise. I'm also basing this on experiences that many of you also currently live every day. Tonight, we're going to establish some fundamental principles that today's schools face in ensuring future-ready graduates. There will be 2 parts to this evening's presentation. The first is to share with you some basic broad brush information about the current state of the district. The numbers you see are snapshots in time, so if you see some minor discrepancies, it could be because, for example, in one instance, we're trying to compare data, so we need to standardize it, so it might be school report card data, it might be lagging a little bit, and perhaps in other cases, we might have received information recently and we wanted the most current information, but we're trying to give you the best information we have at this current point in time. The second part is designed to stimulate thought and promote dialogue about the challenges we face as we look to the future in this community with an obvious emphasis on the educational implications. So let's just start out with this. Working hard and caring about children is necessary in everything we do, but it can only take us so far. We can't just work hard. We have to be committed to doing the right work. This is the District 205 mission statement, and I'd like you to just please be especially conscious of the word all. We're very serious about the fact that all means all, and we'll discuss this in greater detail as we move through this presentation. This is some demographic information on the district. We have our six-day enrollment was 8,322 students. And you see some information about our attendance centers, our employees, our faculty. The next two slides illustrate increasing challenges the district faces related to the number of students who come to us with language barriers or poverty challenges. The percentage of ELL students in the district has increased 182% since 2009. There are 56 separate languages spoken in the district. The percentage of low-income districts in the the percentage of low-income students in the district has increased 483% in the last decade. As it relates to achievement in school, research demonstrates that poverty is the most difficult barrier for children to overcome. In the face of these increasing challenges, which also include intense competition for social resources, a lengthy recession and slow recovery, and perhaps the worst economic climate in the history of Illinois, there are many positive achievement indicators to celebrate. The number of students enrolled in AP courses at York has increased 61%, and the number of tests taken has increased by 68%. And yet the pass rate percentage has remained virtually unchanged, meaning that a far greater number of District 205 students are demonstrating success in rigorous courses. Governor Rauner recently signed into law a bill requiring Illinois universities to award college credit to all students who score 3 or higher on an end-of-course exam. Up until now, universities established their own criteria for which courses and scores they would accept. So our AP participation clearly is advantageous to our students and our families. The district recently learned that it has set a high water mark with an ACT composite score of 24.2. This continues a decades-long trend of improvement. This score is competitive with our primary benchmark comparison districts. The ACT is considered a valid predictor of success of freshman year in college, and improvement is particularly remarkable considering that beginning in the year 2000, all students, not just the top students, were required to take the test. Both metrics clearly indicate that the vast majority of York graduates are prepared for post-secondary success and eligible for acceptance into competitive and highly competitive colleges and universities. While we have many reasons to celebrate in Elmhurst, my cabinet, administrative team, and I are fully committed to continuous improvement, with the ultimate goal that Elmhurst becomes a lighthouse district nationally. You will notice that our benchmarks are all unit districts like ourselves. There are many advantages to being a district which serves students from early childhood through high school, including curricular continuity, instructional articulation among the various levels, and financial efficiencies of scale. This slide shows that the majority of district revenues come from local sources. The state of Illinois has a flawed funding formula with heavy reliance on local taxpayers to foot the bill. Additionally, it has not increased its foundation level since 2009, which is not only $2,000 per student below the Educational Funding Advisory Board's recommended level, but has been prorated for the past 4 years. At the same time, elected officials have passed over 500 separate pieces of legislation in the last 5 years that directly impact schools. Neither have they repealed any of the previous existing laws, nor have they paid for any of the new ones. This chart shows that the majority of expenditures is tied up in people, which is why this district has committed to building the capacity of its workforce and building leadership at all levels of the organization. The highest achievement and fastest improving countries and jurisdictions invest in improving the capacity of their teachers and leaders, whereas in this country, all public policy has focused on accountability. In and of itself, accountability is necessary, but it is not a driver of improvement. And when it has not worked, legislators have ratcheted up a flawed concept and created a vicious cycle resulting in blame, not improvement. A system in which people are interdependently accountable to each other works much better. As shown, the majority of the district money is tied up in people. To build the capacity of its employees, the district must have the ability to allocate resources accordingly. Ensuring that the people doing the work are of the highest quality is more conducive to improvement than increasing the number of people doing the work. Since 2009, enrollment in the district has increased 3.9%, from 8,039 to 8,363, while the number of full-time equivalent teachers has increased 10.6%, from 592 to 655. The complexity of what is being asked of modern-day schools has led to decisions to increase staff. However, considering that the projected enrollment in 2020 is 8,726 students, this trend is quite literally unsustainable. As the increasing demands on public schools, coupled with the reality that there will be no new money in the system for the foreseeable future, will require innovative improvements that increase academic return on investment. This is essentially the problem that public schools face. The majority of people are well-meaning and want strong public schools. However, their frame of reference is typically in the past. So here's where I hope we move into the second part of the presentation. It is the point at which I hope this community can begin what Jamie Vollmer calls the great conversation about our responsibility to serve future generations of students and ensure a strong and vibrant community for decades to come. We will come back to Jamie in a few minutes. I've seen Bob perform live 36 times, and he generally inserts himself into most of my presentations due to forces that are beyond my control. The definition of a classic is something that is just as relevant today as it was when it was created. To me, this line from "The times they are changing" certainly meets that definition, as I believe it continues to speak volumes about the world we live in. We must embrace change and learn how to manage it successfully, as it is the only constant in today's world. The school implications are illustrated in the next two slides. In the old days, teachers disseminated knowledge. Some students learned and some did not. It was a teacher's job to rank order students in what is referred to as a factory model and frequently called sort and select. The problem is that today, virtually all sustainable jobs, and by this I mean jobs that allow people to pay their own rent, car insurance, cell phone bills, etc., require of people higher levels of skill, at least some post-secondary education, and the ability to continue to learn and retrain throughout a lifetime. While public schools in this country are improving, the world is changing at a much faster rate, and failure to acknowledge this reality has potentially disastrous consequences. There is a growing disparity in wealth in this country, meaning that there are fewer people with disposable income to put back into the economy. The implications of a shrinking American middle class are significant for future generations and must be reversed. Today, the charge is to ensure that all students learn. The consequence of failure to meet this moral imperative of all students learning is the disappearance of the middle class and a collapse of the American economy. At the next meeting, our Assistant Superintendent for Learning and Teaching, Dr. Michelle Fitzgerald, will go into greater depth as to what this actually looks like in the classroom. Here are just a few examples that happen to illustrate the changing world in which we live. China has more honor students than the U.S. has students. An estimated 75% of today's kindergarten students will be applying for jobs that don't currently exist. Over 40% of the Fortune 500 companies in 2000 were no longer on the list in 2010. There are more mobile connected devices in the world than there are people. The number of people aged 65 or older is expected to triple to 1.5 billion by the year 2050. The need for some type of post-secondary education is paramount, and higher level thinking skills are now necessary for all jobs, as is the ability to continue to learn and retrain. Since 1965, the average earnings for those with just a high school diploma have decreased, while the average earnings for people with a bachelor's degree has increased, though not commensurate in real dollars with today's economic realities. However, what is most startling is the more radical discrepancy between the two, which has grown by 162%. There are some seminal events that have contributed to the shift to the moral imperative. Brown versus Board of Education ended the legality of segregation. Sputnik initiated a call for rigor as people feared America was falling behind the Russians. A nation at risk exacerbated that fear, despite the fact that it was both flawed and inaccurate. Additional landmark legislation continued to emphasize that aggregate achievement is not acceptable. Large numbers of students were underserved in all ranges of the achievement spectrum, and now this country has evolved to where achievement data must be more sophisticated and segmented with instruction designed to meet the individual learning needs of all students. Again, a much more complex undertaking than in previous eras, marked by declining resources and increasing concern for global competitiveness. Today, NCLB really means no child left in my basement. Pause for effect. What does this shift look like and what does it mean? The moral imperative of all students' learning is represented here. While a normal curve is a statistical fact, the goal is to move from a traditional bell curve to a mountain curve, as shown on the right, raising the level of proficiency by 1 standard deviation, reducing the number of students who, in an archaic system, would not have met standards, and narrowing the distribution of achievement among students. All means all. Translated, this means increased rigor and fewer students who do not master learning targets. Einstein said that the formulation of the problem is often more essential than its solution, which may be merely a matter of mathematical or experimental skills. In other words, if you get the answer right but are asking the wrong questions, you're no further along. So what is the right work in 2015 and beyond? Tony Wagner is the first Innovation Fellow at the Technology and Entrepreneurship Center at Harvard. In his book, The Global Achievement Gap, he interviewed Thomas Friedman, who wrote The World is Flat, which I highly recommend. When asked to reflect on his book, Friedman indicated he got one thing wrong. He significantly underestimated the pace of change. Wagner also wrote the book, Creating Innovators. In it, he outlines these 7 core competencies of innovators. In today's world, it's no longer about what people know, but what they can do with what they know. Bill Daggett is the director of the Institute for International Leadership in Education. Elmhurst District 205 has adopted his definition of rigor, which is the application of knowledge to real-world, unpredictable situations. If we do indeed want Elmhurst to be a lighthouse district, or at the very least, remain relevant and viable for decades to come, we cannot solely rely on best practices to meet the needs of future generations of students. Instead, we must reconceptualize our work to ensure a flexible and adaptable organization that is not only responsible to, but perhaps even predictive of, future needs. These are the 4 things that Wagner believes must change in order for the moral imperative to be realized. And essentially, these are what we call shifts. So these are examples of the shifts when we use that word. Emphasis on individual achievement, compartmentalization of learning, culture of consumption, in other words, the dissemination of knowledge versus the creation of knowledge, and concept of failure, meaning that people have to take risks and they learn from failure, and it's not about grades and worksheets and all of those kinds of things so much as it used to be. A common vocabulary is important to develop a coherent mindset that yields systematic improvement. Elmhurst is utilizing this framework. Notice that while technology is embedded and a tool to enhance student engagement and higher level thinking, future-ready skills are not a synonym for technology. This is commonly confused. In fact, if you look closely, future-ready skills are primarily about literacy in the modern age, communication, accessing, synthesizing, and applying knowledge, critical analysis of problems in human existence. In District 205, we are considering technology as an accelerator, not an end in and of itself. The major focus is on what we call the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. On August 11th, the Board of Education supported a plan to improve student achievement that is focused on improving assessment literacy and student engagement. The administration developed a community compact in which it has committed to utilizing the best information available based on effect-size research to realize a moral imperative with an eye to the future. This graphic represents the ideals articulated in the compact. Jamie Vollmer defines nasthesia as a debilitating mental condition that causes the afflicted to glorify the schools of the past and resist meaningful change. Nasthesia is deadly. I like watching reruns of Leave It to Beaver as much as the next guy. But do we really want to live in the past, turn in our cell phones, and trade our flat-screen smart TVs in for black and white model with rabbit ears? We are advocating for an even better Elmhurst for your children and grandchildren than the one we all remember or currently know. We are not suggesting that this has to happen at the expense of one's cherished memories. When I'm trying to formulate a plan of attack, I turn to the geniuses, the best of the best. When we started with the voice of a generation, and we are ending this presentation with the great one. But where will we go next?
Thank you, Dr. Moyer. Okay, take a breath. That was a lot to take in. Now I get to go back to my former life and be a teacher and help direct you through the activity, and you'll actually get to talk and get to know people at your table, which as I look around the room, I just think it's amazing to see a high school student sitting with a senior citizen, sitting with parents who may have kids in the district right now. And I'm going to listen to that conversation because I think that represents all of the community having a voice for all of the students that we're going to educate. And that's pretty neat. So I would like you to take out the worksheet in your folder. See. I think it's like this, small group activity. And there is one in your folder, and then on your table in the center, there is an official copy, and it has red lettering on it, I believe, okay? So I'm going to go through a few instructions. I'm going to try to be brief, but make sure you understand what you're doing, and then I'm going to set you free to do it, and then we'll come back together and do some follow-up. All right, so that packet. Each table needs to choose a recorder and a facilitator. So someone that is going to, which is the recorder, write down the information from your table. Okay, this will become the official sheet that is turned in tonight. So only one person completes that. We would like them to please make sure that they fill out the section that is at the top and gives your table number, etc. Okay. The facilitator is going to run the discussion at the table. So keep everybody on task and make sure that you hopefully get through all the assignment, okay? All right, so in a minute you can choose your facilitator and your recorder. Try to make sure that all the information recorded on the worksheet reflects the collective decision or general agreement of everyone at the table, not just the opinion of a couple people. So again, going back to the word all, we want all of you to have a voice, not just a couple. Monitor your time. We will be helping you along to make sure you accomplish, hopefully, the whole task. So I'll give you some time reminders. All right. Moving on, there's going to be 3 tasks for your group to complete if you want to look through the sheets. The first task is going to ask you to record what your table found as a celebration, a surprise, and a concern. So what is a good thing you heard tonight that our district's doing that you think is fantastic? What is something that surprised you about the information you heard? maybe nothing, maybe a lot of things, but what surprised you? And last, what is your greatest concern about things that you heard tonight? Is there something that you go, wow, I did not know that, and that is a concern? Those are the things you want to record. There'll be about 10 minutes for that. Task 2 asks you to look at the topic areas. So the questions, issues, and opportunities. So the topics have been chosen for the next 3 community engagement sessions. However, the direction that those topics take is based on the feedback that is received tonight. So while the topic will be the classroom and curriculum, the feedback that comes from tonight will help direct what that session looks like. So each topic indicate the details that should be addressed within these study topics. Last, task 3 is what other suggestions would your group like to provide the facilitating team as we move forward? We have 3 more sessions. What would you like to see either a little different? What did you like? There's about 5 minutes for that. So 10 minutes for task 1, 25 minutes for task 2, and 5 minutes for the last part. Then, after that time, we're gonna come back and we're gonna come around and get feedback from your sheet from as many tables as we can, depending on how much time we have left, okay? I think that's it. All right, so you can get started, and we'll keep checking in on time, and the facilitating team will be walking around if you have any questions. Thanks. What we're going to do is John's going to be on this side of the room, and I'm going to come around to this side of the room. And for the next half hour, because we're going to honor your time, and we're going to stop at 9 o'clock no matter what, and I apologize in advance that we will probably not get to every table. But we're going to try to hear from as many tables as possible your feedback from each task. Okay, so we'll come around with the the microphone, and we will hold it, and you can report your feedback, and then we'll move on to another table, okay? Please remember, this is not to be personal. Try not, no editorials. It's not open mic, so I'm sorry. And do know that if your table doesn't get to share any of their feedback, all of those sheets will be collected by the facilitating team at the end of the session, and every single sheet will be looked at and reported on the website. So don't feel like you're not being heard, okay? All right, so with that, we are going to start back here with table number 30.
That's good. Our greatest concern had to do with increased enrollment, cuts in programs, and funding state mandates. That was task 1. Task 2, we talked about session 3 on what are the financial challenges and opportunities that District 205 faces. And we had a nice discussion about financial support of teachers, fair salaries, and maintaining quality educators. And we didn't get to task 3.
I would say our concerns are exactly what the lady just had said, that, with shrinking revenues and needing to meet the needs of all students, whether they be on the high end, the low end, whether they are, socioeconomic achievement gap, it's pretty much the same thing.
Did you have anything from task 1, like surprise, concern, or good thing?
We had some great feedback about the Chromebooks. There were 2 freshmen who were in our group who had great things to say. I think the only criticism was because there is so much map testing going on, and because everybody's on Chromebooks now, there may not be enough bandwidth, and that's probably a learning curve. So maybe a little bit more, I don't know if it's bandwidth is the right word, but more internet connectivity.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
Okay. Yeah.
Over
Our
to you.
greatest surprise, I thought, for our table was the increase of poverty in the, non-English speaking students. I guess we didn't realize that it had gone up so much over the years. So that was our surprise in our task 1. And then we were looking at task 2. We looked at classroom facilities in the 21st century. How are we going to house all those kids? The space in the classroom, spaces, common space, traffic issues that seem to come up with all of the schools with that many number of children and parents dropping off kids, just traffic. And then our task 3, other suggestions, we talked about how we should brag a little bit more in our district, get it out there about all the good things that we're doing, and we feel that our table felt that it's not a lot of what good things District 205 is out there for the public to see. And then one other thing was we suggested maybe we can have an expert on some of these, maybe from a different district, because if they're doing it, maybe we can learn from what they're doing and learn from their mistakes if they've already been through some of the processes that we're starting.
Okay, task 1, we celebrated the continued improvements and inclusion of all students. And we had some folks at the table sharing that we just have wonderful programs in the district, fine arts, performing arts, athletic options for students, and that our teachers are well educated. And we were pleased to see so many teachers in the district have master's degrees or above. Our greatest surprise, to not repeat things that other folks have said already, we shared that the ratio of teachers hired to the ratio of students potentially could be a concern from the lens of what are those positions being hired? Are they classroom teachers for the purpose of lowering class size, or are they perhaps instructional coaches for increasing the professional development of teachers who are in the classrooms with teachers or with students, all the time, and spreading the wealth through a hire of one instructional coach to many, many teachers in a school or in the whole district. And then our greatest concern, I would say, just to choose a couple of things from here, would be the retention of our teachers, keeping good teachers in the district. And we had, the students we had at our table were terrific, truly. They were very participatory, and they had a lot of really great insight. And they shared their concerns over the amount of testing that they have to do, and in particular the PARCC testing. And they feel that the students at the high school level do not take those tests seriously, and the amount of time allotted for the PARCC testing and the time that it takes away from their instruction in the classroom was of great concern to the high school kids at our table.
We celebrated the superintendent's verbal commitment that he gave to all of us to make sure that the education is for all students and is completely inclusive. Like some of the other tables have already spoken, we were also surprised by the number of low-income students and the rise within the school district. Our greatest concern, we decided, was how are we going to better prepare kids for jobs that don't exist? What can we do right now to get ahead of the puck, right? As far as our task 2, again, our biggest concern, tomorrow's classroom is, again, preparing for jobs in the future. Utilization of resources. Are we utilizing staff development in the best ways? If we have so many teachers that we're hiring, are we properly training them? Are we giving them the development opportunity so we can retain them within the district so that they feel like there's growth and development here? As far as number 4, school facilities in the 21st century, we actually asked, why don't more of these schools have accessible playgrounds? What's the reason why in 2015 we don't have playgrounds that are accessible to kids in wheelchairs or with other disabilities and special needs? That just seems ridiculous. Task number 3, other suggestions. It seems like there's a growing amount of part-time staff within the school district, and is that really the best way to employ our resources and serve our students? Would we do better in some instances if we had more full-time staff and less part-time staff? And that's what we have.
Okay, our celebration and our surprise are kind of the same. The gentlemen at this table, we're all very pleased with the emphasis on community involvement and the recognition that there needs to be changes in teaching and learning. And one of the parents of younger students liked the communication from the teachers already. So a lot of great things about communication, whether it's at the school level or just having this kind of a forum and opportunity to learn more about the district. From task 2, future-ready learning, we talked about the importance of technology and professional development for teachers, yet making sure that the technology goes with the future-ready skills that include the creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, kind of those human and soft skills as well.
Okay, so for the first one, our greatest surprise, like most people, was the demographic makeup of Elmhurst and the division. We had some sort of different ideas, though. Tomorrow's classrooms, I think what we focused on was how does the staff get kids to learn with less focus on grades and test scores and more on critical thinking and absorbing information. For the utilization of resources for maximum student success, we felt that the importance of opportunities for non-college track students, for instance, the growth of programs like the Invite to Teach, the medical program, more career path, vocational opportunities, and connecting with our community to find out what resources for internships and that sort of thing we could possibly develop there. And for school facilities in the 21st century, we know it's the third rail, but we talked about the possibility of redistricting to even out classroom size, especially among the elementary schools.
For task number 1, we wanted to celebrate the quality teachers serving a diverse range of ages and issues and continuity in the district. Our greatest surprise was the significant growth in percentage of ELL and low-income students. And our greatest concern was school boundaries, staffing personnel versus student enrollment, which is not sustainable, and teacher accountability when not performing well in the classroom. And we wondered how all of this impacted special ed. Task 2. Future ready, rolling out electronics. What are the long-term effects of this for students? We did feel that collaboration is easier with electronics, but what happens when technology fails? What are the financial challenges? The state and federal mandates, unsustainable staffing numbers, and the state of Illinois seems to always be a problem. How well does our current structure meet the needs of students? Many of our facilities are already maxed out. Many are in need of repair. And how do the schools adapt to the rise in students? That's it.
We discussed celebrating that our district really wants to include all students. However, we felt that a concern was sometimes there's some disconnect between the students going from middle school to high school in the special ed department. For task 2, we looked at tomorrow's classrooms today, and we enjoyed that the technology is being rolled out, especially at the middle school level. Every student now is going one-to-one with Chromebooks. But one of the weaknesses is that the public isn't really aware of all of the resources, both monetarily as well as tangible resources that are available to students. And lastly, we talked about just reiterating some of the disconnect between elementary to middle school to high school, and we'd really like to see a little bit more working together there.
Thank you.
We have a couple of, it was hard to just pick a few, but I'm going to start with the greatest concerns because that's what our table was here for. Enforcing school policies at home, accountability, parent involvement, discipline, and awareness was a concern. As far as the task 2, we were concerned about the financial challenges and opportunities District 205 faces, free and reduced lunch programs, income percentage for low income, stretch on the resources versus going toward education, challenges, needs for more differentiation, student puts stretch on resources, class sizes, retaining talent and experienced teachers. And then the last concern, task 3, was redistricting, IEPs, and teachers are asked to do more the critical mass for education.
At our table, we were focused on compensation for our teachers, especially our high school teachers, because we want them to be competitive with other districts. And then also the need for rigor, and that rigor is not tied to testing, but rather to lifelong skills.
From the first task, we were just celebrating the fact that there's obviously a great reputation here because more former students keep coming back to Elmhurst and keep going through class. The concern that came up is over and over again, which is technology is great, but there's not enough bandwidth to support some of it. So it's very frustrating to have to go plan A, plan B, when you've got all this great stuff that you'd like to do. The second task, the strength is increasing the technology, again, the infrastructure. School facilities in the 21st century are, our teachers are very effective. Concern was, where are we in terms of full-day kindergarten? And the other suggestion is there's a conflict with the date of the next group and the middle school conferences. So there are parents involved as teachers and students that have students both that would like to be here.
My name is Erin Loza. I'm the parent liaison for Conrad Fisher School. I represent about 200 families that are Hispanic, and we have some leaders in the community here. So I'm going to read in English what they came across in Spanish, so we'll hand at the end a Spanish version and an English version. So for things to celebrate, the parents want to celebrate the speech of the superintendent. They like the number of achievement of a student at the district level, and they would like to celebrate principal the achievements. The greatest surprise, that the school, how will be the schools in 50 years in the speech. There is not enough funding. What's going to happen? Also the fact that China have more honored students, better technology, better students for their country. China has something inspiring and motivating. In greatest concern, the funds, the resources. It is a great concern and how the state is diminishing the funds for education. How to help was the question that was raised. The technology is advancing in a way. Also, another concern that one parent mentioned is that the students, it will be the point in time that they can write anymore. Everything is technology oriented. In task number 2, in tomorrow's classroom today, and what does future-ready learning looks like, the concerns of the parents are saying here is that the classrooms are too small or too stretched. Parents wish more space for their students and also reduce the gap between the best capacitator or the best students to the students that are at risk, to try to find a way to put them in the same level. One of the questions that the parents have is, what districts think with the increase of number of students at the district level? There is more children than teachers. What could we do about it? Solutions, some suggestions that the parents say is to hire more teachers, to cover the basic needs of the students, to get more technology, equipment, to teach values and principles in schools like at home, values like respect, integrity, and civics. More buses and bilingual drivers, please. In terms of school facilities in the 21st centuries and the focus how well our current historical meets the needs of our students, again, the topic was around the buildings are insufficient, small, the radio of a student per teacher is just too big. Perhaps the solution will be to build more schools or more classrooms or hire more teachers again. Parents will love that elementary school has a room for an event or proper stage, proper seating, proper sound system like other schools have. Also a better system for interpreters. And for other suggestions, it came across to teach the students to be entrepreneurs and to give back to the US in an economical way, creating new employments. And parents would like to find ways to send their children to a higher education level, because it is too expensive and sometimes unreachable. And again, parents would love to have an auditorium, especially in the elementary school, Conrad Fisher. That's all. Thank you.
Our greatest concern is just sustaining funding without compromising the integrity of the district. And then for task 2, really technology came up in all 3 or 4 of the discussion areas. So we just, want to brainstorm creative solutions to all the expensive technology demands, and then also keeping technology secure and teaching kids how to safely use technology. That's it.
I'll just focus on the 3 areas that we had since we're rushed for time. But for tomorrow's classrooms today, we're looking at how do the teachers, how do we enhance professional development for the teachers? How do they network and dialogue with each other so that they're sharing content vertically in between schools from K through 12? We're looking for an improvement in knowledge for students and progress with technology. And also, we're wondering what the long-term plan is for special education students and for the individualization of programming for each of the students in the classroom. And then a question about how the testing, the MAP and PARC tests are developing students for the future. For section 3, resources for maximum student success. What are the long-term plans for the older facilities? We like what we see around us here, but Are things improving at in all of the buildings? How are we investing in updated curriculum? And how can we use technology and experts outside of the local community to facilitate learning and perhaps save on cost? And then finally, the school facilities in the 21st century. We need more flexible, multi-use space for our students and inside the classrooms so that teachers can maneuver quickly and easily between one activity and the next. We need to improve the sort of crumbling and crowded buildings, and we need a robust bandwidth and wireless connection for our students.
We talked about many of the things we've heard already. A couple things that we haven't heard yet, something that we'd like to celebrate was the increased diversity and the changing economics of our students hasn't hurt our students' achievement at all, and we're improving scores at the same time. One of our greatest surprises is that an event like this is going on. We're asking people in the district for advice instead of paying for consultants or bringing people in from outside. Another thing on task 2 is can we find new ways to make money for the district? If we're not going to be able to raise taxes or cut our budgets anymore, how are we going to get more money in?
We have mostly many of the same things that have already been said tonight, but just to highlight a few things that are different. We wanted to celebrate just this opportunity for community engagement and to be a part of the discussion, and we hope that it will lead to some long-range planning where these voices and concerns are actually implemented. In terms of our concerns, we, as everyone, have concerns greatly about the finances, both at the state level and at the local level. And a greatest concern is that this district relies so heavily on local property taxes and student fees, and we'd like to see that be addressed. In terms of strengths, we are right there with everyone about the one-to-one technology initiative and seeing that in grades 6 through 12, as well as the wide range of enrichment programs that District 205, I think, has come to pride itself on in terms of music and the arts and really educating the whole child. We'd like to see a greater emphasis placed on our earliest learners at both our pre-K and our kindergarten, moving kindergarten to full day, and looking at our capacity of our buildings in terms of sizes. We'd also like to see District 205 take advantage of being a unit district to provide more articulation opportunities between elementary to middle school to high school. And in section 3, our task 3, just more time for discussion. We obviously became very engaged in the discussions at our tables and would like to see more time and opportunity to do that. So thank you.
So the remaining tables, we've told them just one thing, so they can choose the one thing they want to say. So sorry, but here we go. This is Scott. He's going to give us his one thing.
Thanks for the snacks. Thank you. No, we're Team Progressive. Dabu said ours was the financial concerns. If there's not additional money coming in from taxes, people living in the area may be frustrated. Is there ways, kind of like the previous group said, can we have a grant writer to get some federal funding and maybe try and bring in some of that, or other sponsorships from other places? There's a way to bring in funding to support the technology and the other things that we need as well. And then the last piece is what we're doing here today is it making happier kids. So we're doing a lot of things on an achievement side, but we're also looking at the quality of life for the kids that we have in this environment too.
The calendars through the high school and K through 8 really need to align. School schedule, high school especially, is the school schedule conducive to learning, possibly at a later start, and are teachers involved with facilitating new teams?
From our table, we were celebrating the reputation of this district beyond the local community and the surrounding communities, but our concern was this being more of a springboard district. A lot of teachers leaving, especially in the high school, to higher paying jobs in some of the surrounding districts.
Keeping up with the pace of change and funding that pace of change, both in the education and competitive compensation of the teachers, and looking to the community for innovative ways to raise money, given that the governments are constrained in their financing.
Okay, just one thing. I know it was mentioned at a couple of the tables about retention of teachers, but we'd also like to focus on retention of keeping lots of our administrators and leaders in the school and seeing that the good things that they start continue to be implemented and continuing with the momentum of each of the schools and the great things that they're doing.
Hi, I'm Suji Labine. I just stepped to task 2. What does the future-ready learning look like? I think the only thing that I haven't heard said today is that we thought get rid of the park testing and all state-mandated testing. That isn't really worthwhile. And the other thing we talked about that hasn't been mentioned today is the school facilities for the 21st century. We'd like to see more enrichment for our kids in the sense of, we're long-term thinking here that more science lab in the grade schools, maybe math labs in the middle schools, giving them more resources.
Okay, so it's 9:01. I know, just give us 2 minutes. She's going to be the last one. This is Benita, and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay? All right. Give us your one thing.
Okay, well, our table was all from parents of either early childhood or kindergarten, first grade, and our biggest concern is how are we implementing these 4 C's of future-ready learning into the Common Core that we keep hearing over and over again from our teachers, and how are we from day 1 through every single grade through high school applying the shift of learning from teacher-directed to student-directed and making concepts not so academic and abstract to concrete and hands-on.
All right. So, not bad. We're going to get you out of here at 9:05. Please make sure that your sheet got collected or is getting collected by a facilitating team member. And I want to mostly thank you just for coming. This is almost 200 people here tonight. I see a lot of teachers, a wide variety of community members. Fantastic, and especially because this is a really busy week. So thank you for coming. Please tell your friends and your neighbors and bring them to the next one, which is on Thursday, October 8th, 7 to 9, right here. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have you visited the Elmhurst Public Library lately? The Kids Library is a wonderful place, especially with our many exciting children's programs. The second floor is home to the adult and teen collections. From research to magazines, we've got it. We have more than 80 computers throughout the building. Or bring your own laptop. The entire building has wireless access. Need a quiet place to study? Try our silent study rooms. Book one of our spacious meeting rooms for your group. Our convenient book drop and drive-up window make picking up and returning library materials a breeze. And don't forget, EPL is open 24/7 online at elmhurstpubliclibrary.org.